Hello, Will. Yeah, it's me again. Yes, it's not a real well me today. I'm having one of my off days. Well, not that there's anything unusual about it. People have off days all the time, but I tend to have them more often than not these days. Yeah, it started yesterday, as a matter of fact. Yesterday afternoon, I finally got up the motivation to line trim the edges in the backyard. And then I got around to mowing, but the grass was so thick, it proved to be really hard work, and I had a really bad episode of breathlessness. And it took me about an hour to get over it, and I don't think I fully got over it today. Yeah, I'm just feeling kind of poorly today, but life goes on. All right, first cab off the rank. Local weather. It's overcast today. I think it's about 27 degrees in my shed office, and under the shade at the back of the house, it's around 25 degrees. But the humidity's way up; it's up to about 94%, and there was 17 millimeters in the gauge this morning, and that gave us 247 millimeters for this month. So to go along with the 516.5 we had in February, the last 2 months have been very, very wet. But unlike February, where we had 20 of the 28 days wet, we only had 9 of the 31 of March wet. But yeah, so that's given us something, getting around about 780 millimeters of rain in 2 months. That's a lot of rain. The forecast is for rain for the next 5 to 7 days. Yeah, probably more like just nuisance rain now and then toward the late afternoon. We'll probably end up getting the odd storm. But of course, with Easter coming up, in fact, it started to rain now, as a matter of fact. I can just hear it on the roof of the shed. With Easter coming up, Easter's only a few days away, and it's a 4-day long weekend. And there will be the roads will be chock-a-block full of people going away for the 4 days. And of course, the school holidays have started. Well, I think they've started. And more often than not, it rains over Easter. Yeah, but the funny thing is, as I said before, I've been a hunter and a shooter for 50 years. And I started going away hunting in my late teens. I bought my first .22 rifle I'm just trying to remember when it was now. It must have been when I was doing my printer apprenticeship, offset printer apprenticeship. So it was probably in, must have been before decimal currency came in. It must have been in 1965. I did buy my first centerfire rifle in 1965 as well, 243. But the first rifle I bought was a .22 rimfire, and it was a Javam model A3. It was a semi-automatic, simple blowback action. Of course, they once 1996 came and Martin Bryant did his heinous act down in Port Arthur. That's when the gun buyback came back, and of course those sort of firearms became illegal. But yes, when we used to go away, there was 3 of us. No, sorry, there was 4 of us. We used to go away every long weekend, and for our holidays, and we'd always go on hunting trips. And we did it rough in those days. Oh yeah, we did it real rough. You know, we didn't have a tent. We had a big piece of old duck canvas that we used to just drape over ourselves, because we usually went away when it was cold. And we went to a place called Oberon, which is on the other side of the Blue Mountains, and it gets very, very cold there. And most of the time we used to go and camp on the side of the road. You know, and no one gave a hoot nor a holler about people camping on the side of the road and going into the state forest doing a bit of hunting and shooting. And but we just camped on the side of the road. Sometimes we'd put up targets and do a bit of target practice. Not more than 30 yards from the main road. Not that it was a busy road, but like I say, in those days people were more casual about that sort of thing. We didn't have the firearm paranoia we have in this day and age, and we have a huge amount of firearm paranoia in this day and age, particularly in Australia. You know, as I said before, we've got a very strong anti-gun lobby. But anyhow, I'm digressing. And yes, we I can't ever remember it raining when we went away. I don't know. I honestly can't remember it ever raining when we went away over an Easter long weekend or any other long weekends. But lately, it seems to rain come every Easter. Oh, well. Excuse me, I'm just going to have a sip of tea. I woke up not only feeling lousy, but I also had something in my right eye. It might have been a piece of dandruff, I don't know. I wash my hair fairly regularly, and I've always suffered badly from dandruff. So it could have been a bit of dandruff got in my eye, and as a consequence, my right eye's a bit puffy, and it's been weeping a lot. Oh well, such is life. Now, in last night's episode of A Current Affair, which I watch after the nightly news, Scientology, the Church of Scientology, was once again making headlines, and for all the wrong reasons. Evidently, there's been a documentary made that is not too complimentary to the Church of Scientology, and they're sort of gone in defense mode, lockdown mode. But I think it's about time something like this came out and just showed what this so-called Church of Scientology is all about. Because it's not a church. It's not. It's just a church in name only. I mean, it's a multi-billion-dollar enterprise. It's a business. It's a business to make money. But they call themselves a church, and they're allowed to call themselves a church, and therefore they pay no tax whatsoever. Now, how disgusting is that? I mean, what's wrong with the governments of the countries where this so-called Church of Scientology is? It's here in Australia. It's probably worldwide for all I know. And what's wrong with the governments? Pure gutless wonders. Why the hell don't they just lay the law down to this so-called Church of Scientology and say, well, okay, fellas, we're taking away the church banner, and you're going to have to start paying your tax like all other folks. Because look, they are nothing but a bunch of well, what can I say? There's probably a lot of words I can say about them. They're from what I've read about and what I've heard about the church, they're into brainwashing. They say they are there for their members, for their flock, but they're not. They're there to get what, at least 10% of money that these people own is donated to the church. I'm not going to call it a church anymore because it's not a church. It's to me, it's nothing but a scam. It's a multinational scam. That's all it is. They're lulling these people in and brainwashing them. I wouldn't be surprised at all because I've heard some terrible stories about this Scientology group, and they're in it just to make money. And I nearly let fly as an expletive, then a profanity, and I don't particularly like to do that. But so yes, maybe the what will hit the fan sooner rather than later, and all governments worldwide will wake up to this group and say, okay, enough is enough. About time you started paying taxes, you group of brigands, because that's all they are. You get the likes of these some of these movie stars. I'm not going to mention names because even though you probably know who I'm talking about, and to act as spokespeople for this group. I saw a bit on the Current Affair last night where it showed one of their meetings, I suppose their congregation, where the head of this Scientology group was going on about L. Ron Hubbard, the founder of the Scientology, and they all stood up and applauded him, even saluted him as if he was a god. But the guy was just an egomaniac. That's all he was. He suddenly realised that by preaching the so-called gospel, his religion, that there was a lot of money being made. And by gee, hasn't he made a lot of money out of it? But it's been proven that some of the things he told about himself are just barefaced lies. Why am I not surprised? Scientology, eh? I don't know. But I would like to see this government of ours, this federal government, to really lay the law down on this Scientology group and get them to pay what they should pay, their fair share of the taxes that should be paid, because it's not right that ordinary working folk work their guts out earning mediocre wages because they have to keep a roof over their head and to feed their families. And this Scientology group is raking in billions of dollars a year, and they don't have to pay 1 cent in tax. Good grief. Maybe I should start up my own religious group, my own church, call it a church. The Church of John Hampton, for instance, or something like that. You know? I suppose in one way, when you look at it, they're nothing but a cult. Yeah, I suppose a cult is a fair enough name for this Scientology group. Oh dear. And yet people flock to them, don't they? Oh, we have other groups here in Australia too. And they're very hush-hush. And they've got oodles of money. You know, they can buy land, wherever they want to buy land. It doesn't matter how big it is and how expensive it is, they can buy this land and they can build these so-called churches, these, or whatever you want to call them. And yeah, people just flock to them, you know, and they're derogatory towards women. There's no doubt about that, because I've seen how the women are supposed to dress. And this is in Australia. I'm not talking about over in America and other countries. Yeah, the women have to dress with long skirts and so on, as if they're not allowed to show any, you know, any leg or arm or bare leg and whatever. You know, that they really look upon women as second-class citizens. I don't know how the women put up with it. Now, as I say, you know, they've obviously been coerced, they've been brainwashed into behaving like this, and they're quite happy to part with their hard-earned money to support these creeps, these organisations. And that's all they are. You know, they're just a bunch of morons. They're just a bunch of creeps. You know, they're just making oodles of money just for the sake of being able to do it because the government lets them get away with it. What's wrong? And it's high time the governments all over the world put their foot down and said, enough is enough. You're going to start paying your tax. We're not going to allow you to call yourself a church because you're not a church. And that's it. And let's see what happens. Let's see what happens when, you know, what hits the fan. I mean, it really angers me. It really does. And, yeah. Anyhow, look, I'm going to have another sip of tea. Now, I'd like to think that there are a few people watching these live streams, and will take note of what I've said. It'd be wonderful if I had a huge following. I'd be able to really get the message across. But no, I don't. You know, I'm lucky if I get 10 or 15 views, and I don't know if people watch the whole thing. You know, it could go for half an hour or so, and they might get bored as soon as they start to watch and might just scroll right through and probably miss all the points I make, or they might watch it. I don't know, but I haven't had any comments. No one's commented on any of my live streams. They go on Google Plus, of course. They're automatically loaded up to YouTube and Google Plus, which I might add, I've got a bit of a problem with, because usually there's no thumbnail when they go into Google Plus. So what I've got to do is I get into the video manager on my YouTube channel, and there's always a thumbnail there. So then I've got to re-share it with Google Plus. I don't know why that happens. But it does. But yes, it goes on to Google Plus, and there's the usual reliable Miss D Bizwa, and she's always got her smiley avatar on there, giving me the thumbs up or a plus, and I really appreciate that from Miss Bizwa. She never comments. In fact, I can't even remember her commenting on any post. She puts the occasional post in and asks questions, and I often make a comment on them, but she never ever replies. Maybe she's just a very private person. You know, she seems like a lovely lady, and And there's another young woman there, GT Nina, Gina Nina or Gina Nina. She often see her icon there on my on these video posts, live stream posts. Now, you know, it's good to know that some people watching, or that they've seen the post and they give it a like anyhow, whether they watch it or not. Oh dear, what can I say? Yeah, yeah. Anyhow, I'm going to get right off this this Scientology bunch of wackos, and I'm going to talk about something that here in Australia, and I suppose it's the same all over the world, especially in the country, about water. Yeah, H2O, water. Now, living in the city and the suburbs, you know, we take water for granted. We really do. You know, it's there. It's there with dead certainty every time we turn on a tap, isn't it? We can turn on any tap anywhere in the house or outdoors, and we got water. But in the country, in the bush, water is a really precious thing. It really is. You know, it's not taken for granted in the bush. You know, if you've got a small property somewhere near near a town or city, you can be hooked up to the town water supply. But the greater majority of folk on the land have big areas of land, and they don't have that luxury. They have to rely on their water tanks that might be on that are on the homestead, and quite often they're on any roof area that can collect a fair amount of water. And for their sheep and cattle, they have earth dams, and that's it. That's their only source of water. Now, if you've got an abundance of water on the land, everything's possible. Everything's possible. You know, you can get bountiful harvest, you can have lush pastures, you can breed a healthy stock with high yield production of them, you know, with meat and wool and what have you. But I'm just checking my notes here. I usually have them over, I better put them over here, I suppose. But when times are drought, and believe me, I think out here in the country, they are experiencing drought at the moment, because when I called my cousin a few weeks ago, he said that it had been a terribly hot and dry summer. And from what I've seen on the weather forecast and the weather predictions, that that is very true. They did get some rain up in the northwest of the state of New South Wales, but most of it's been centred around from the Great Dividing Range east, all up and down the coast. But when you've got but when times of drought come, and they happen all too frequently here in Oz, which is, by the way, the driest continent on the face of the planet, those on the land experience a hell like no other. They really do. Oh yes, my word. It's a virtual Armageddon for them. No, I'm not over-exaggerating. You know, because the greater majority of folk on the land, they will borrow money to plant that year's crop. Yeah, and we're talking about some big areas here. We're not talking about, you know, a backyard. We're talking about 1,000 hectares, 5,000 hectares, 10,000. I've seen enormous crops when I've been travelling out in the bush. I mean, they just go on, they seem to go on forever. You know, they could cover 10,000 hectares, 50,000 hectares for all I know. Now, you've got to borrow a lot of money to put in a crop like that, because to plant a crop, say, of wheat, you're looking at about $120 a hectare in cost. So, you know, if you plant 1,000 hectares on, you look at $120,000. Now, most people on the land don't have that sort of money, so they have to go to the friendly bank manager and get an overdraft. It was a big gamble. You know, and farming is a business. So, as for a business, it's the biggest gamble of all businesses. It really is. And most property owners are lucky. I really don't like the word luck, but I'll use it. Are lucky enough if they get 2 good years out of every 5. So, you know, life on the land can be very, very hard. And when a drought comes and you see your once lush pastures just shrivel up and die and just become, the paddocks just become bare, and to see your crops fail and your dams dry and your stock dying, and sometimes they're forced to put down stock because they're not worth selling. They can't get a reasonable price for them. And in times of severe drought, drought that can go on for a decade or more, precious breeding stock is lost. Breeding stock that has spent decades getting up to the standard that the farmer wants, and it can all be lost. And of course, the ever reliable, well, it's not reliable, the tank water to the house, and which they use for drinking, for washing, for cooking, and it can suddenly, you haven't got water at all, and they're forced to bring water in, have water carted in. Of course, they got to pay for it. And in times like that, there are some folk, commit suicide. They go into the depths of despair and depression. Some just walk off the land because, there's nothing there for them anymore. But they've still usually got high debts. Now, people in the city don't realise this. They think everyone on the lands are millionaires. Well, let me tell you, from my own experience, that's just not true. There are a few on the land who have been very successful, and they have been for generations. And they are quite wealthy people. But on the whole, most farmers are not wealthy at all. No. They just live from one crop to the other, or they live from one wool harvest to the next, and from one breeding season to the next, and they're virtually just keeping their heads above water. No, life on the land can be very, very, very difficult, very, very hard indeed. And I have enormous respect for all folk on the land, no matter it's just here in Australia or overseas. They're honest, hard-working folk, and yeah. Oh dear. It's starting to rain a bit heavier now. Yeah, it's a bit more precipitation. We really need it. I mean, I was mowing the back lawn yesterday, and it was really hard going. And some of the ground was very soft underfoot. And now the rain's come again, and it'll make it even softer. And I can't get out and do the front lawn. It doesn't really matter for me because I can't see the front lawn from the desk in my shed office. I can look out the side door here, and I can see that the lawn looks nice, and it looks like a lawn now, where before it just looked like it just looked like a shaggy carpet of green. But it took me about, let's say, it must have been 2.5 hours to do it yesterday. Now, the area of the lawn, I suppose it must be 350 square metres. Yeah, it's not a small lawn, but again, it's not a big lawn. But I'm not the man I used to be, no way in the world, because with the emphysema now, and it just seems to be, some days it really gets me hard. And I'm battling to breathe properly some of the time. But as I said yesterday, I finally got up and went out there and put my work boots on and my overalls, and got out the line trim and put on my cap and my ear muffs and my goggles, and went away. And I didn't have much of a problem doing the line trimming. I had to stop a couple of times just to catch my breath, but on the whole, I did it pretty easily. But then it came to the mowing. But I was able to get rid of the overalls and the earmuffs and whatever, because the mower doesn't make that much noise. I think it's about 75 decibels. And look, I'm deaf anyhow. It doesn't really matter about the noise. And but yeah, I really found it hard going. Yeah, but the grass being so high, I had to really force the mower through it, and I had to stop. I had to turn the mower off a couple of times just to go and sit down, catch my breath. But when the episode struck, when I really lost my breath, I just couldn't breathe, and that's when the panic sets in. I think anyone with emphysema will know what I'm talking about. Even those with asthma, when you have a bad asthma attack and you can't breathe, there is nothing worse on the face of the planet. No worst experience than not being able to breathe. And you try to tell yourself to relax, because you've got to fight the panic, the sheer panic that almost overwhelms you. And you've got to just try and breathe easily, just even tiny breaths. And when when you get into when you have a bad attack of breathlessness, in your almost panic state, you can't sit indoors. You know, I went inside initially and tried to sit down, but I became claustrophobic. That's how you feel. You feel claustrophobic. So I went outside, and I had my cap and sunglasses on, but I had to take them off too. I just felt like I had to take my cap off, my sunglasses. I even felt like taking my boots and socks off. Yeah, that's what panic can do to you. Do you know, this is just well, it's not trivia, but it's trivial information. That when folk get lost in the bush and they perish, they are invariably found naked. And I can understand that. I really can. Because you get so overwhelmed with panic that you just begin to shed your clothes. I don't know why it is, you know, it's just a pure psychological thing. But anyone who has ever suffered a period of breathlessness, either with an asthma attack or you suffer from emphysema or you've had an allergic reaction to something, you will know what I'm talking about. There is nothing worse. Take it from me, there is absolutely nothing worse. Excuse me, we'll have another sip of tea. My mouth's gone dry again. Anyhow, that's enough of that. Enough of that. Now, when I went upside, when I went up to the house to go and nuke a mug of tea, my wife was sitting down watching Dr. Phil. She always watches Dr. Phil, and this was about bullying on social media. Now, we all know it's common. We all know it's very common on social media. But look, on the whole, I like all forms of social media. Now, I'm on Facebook, I'm on Twitter, Google Plus, and I've got my YouTube channel, and I share on Tumblr, and there are others as well. But the problem with social media is that it can be a venue for antisocial behaviour. And the trouble is with this behaviour is that those who are dishing it out don't realise, or maybe they do, that there are a lot of young and impressionable minds on social media. And these kids can take nasty things to heart. And that's why, unfortunately, we have these young people committing suicide. Now, I always say, look, if you want to criticise someone, do so with eloquence. You know, use common sense and reason. Use what ability you have with the English language, because you get more flies with honey than you do vinegar, as the saying goes, and it's very, very true. But all too often, these people get on there and they just let fly with expletives and profanities and just run off the mouth, which just shows that they have a total lack of command of the English language, that there is nothing between their ears, and all they rely on is the shock value of foul language. Foul language. That's it. I've been the subject of myself in the past, but as I said this before. As a mature adult, I was able to handle it with plum. Is that what the word is? Plum. Oh, anyhow, I gave these young smart Alex a dose of their own medicine, and they shut up quick smart. And I have commented on many YouTube videos, and occasionally I've had some foul mouth rebukes, and I always know how to treat those too, because you don't battle them fire with fire. Oh no, I use reverse psychology on them. You know, if they say F you, or you're F and such, I'll say thank you. No, I appreciate that. And they don't know to handle that, and they usually reply with more foul mouth language, and you say, oh, okay. And then suddenly, you know, they don't know where to go. They don't know how to handle that sort of response. If you respond to them in kind, well, you've that's exactly what they want. That's exactly what they want you to do, and then they can keep going. And then they can just keep going on. But if you use reverse psychology on them, I recommend it to you. You know, if someone's having a go at you, say on Facebook, which is what this Dr. Phil episode was about these young women going on and defaming and criticising and threatening other young women on Facebook. You know, just blatant antisocial behaviour. I just don't understand that at all. But if you just fob it off with a oh, thank you, and oh, okay, and that sort of thing, they don't know how to handle it. No, they don't know how to handle that at all. So instead of trying to fight fire with fire, which more than likely you invariably lose and waste your time, yeah, just use reverse psychology. It works. It works a treat. Yeah, don't be lulled into doing battle with them. Yeah, no. Or you can just totally ignore them. Yeah, they don't like that either. Yes, but that's the problem with all social media, is that they are all venues for antisocial behaviour in some way. Yeah, there's things you can do about it. You can flag these people, like I've done on Google Plus. I flagged a couple of posts that were nothing short of pornographic. Yeah, there's a time and a place for pornography, and it's not on social media. No, it's not on social media. So I flagged them and report them. I don't know if Google Plus does anything, or Google. I don't know if anything goes on at all. Oh, dear. Well, for an old fella who's feeling sort of down the dumps today, I probably haven't done too bad. Oh, look, it's 1:33, and so yeah, that 33 minutes went really quick, didn't it? Well, I've said all I was going to say. I've checked my notes, and I haven't got any more to say. So I'm going to say goodbye to Eddie, who happened to be watching. I'm going to say thank you for watching. And I'm still looking down. I still can't get used to looking up in the camera to keep my eyes up. So I'm going to say, see, there I go again. I'm looking down again. More like. Yes. So I will say thank you for watching. And I will see you again tomorrow. That's Wednesday. Oh, the 1st of April, April Fool's Day. All right, my friends. Until tomorrow, April Fool's Day. Bye for now. Oh, God, I got such a headache.